Alexander Volkanovski and Brian Ortega have been tapped to host the next season of The Ultimate Fighter, which is coming back to ESPN Plus. That's right. In the coming weeks, they will be filming The Ultimate Fighter once again. And following the end of the season, we will finally get the featherweight championship matchup between Volkanovski and Ortega. We don't have the exact details on the format of the show, if it's going to be one of the live series where it's, done in real time, or if they're going to release episodes weekly, what have you. We don't know any of those details. We just know right now that it's Volk versus Ortega for coaches on The Ultimate Fighter. Drake, what's your reaction to this news? Because obviously we were just supposed to see these two fight at UFC 260.
Yeah, we were, and we didn't. So sad. I'm sad that we didn't see it. And, I'm one of the few people who still enjoys Tough. I'm not excited or wanted to see it back necessarily, but I still will tune into this because, it has been overdone, but I still like it for the most part. It still, draws my attention in. But this sucks, man. This really, really sucks. Simply for the fact that we just had this fight in the palm of our hands, and now let's stretch it out. Let's stretch it out as long as we literally possibly can for, maximum benefit to the UFC, I guess, depending on how many people are interested in this at this point, which from the looks of it, not many people care. And, like I said, I will watch, but I don't really care. I'm going to watch. I do like Tough, and I always have, but I don't really care anymore. It's like, it's there. If it's not, then whatever. We've had 28 seasons, more than that if you include literally all of them. So stretching this fight out when it doesn't need to be, not even, I can't imagine that the back and forth that we love so much between coaches on the show is going to be like super duper entertaining between these guys. Volkanovski, I think, is a very underappreciated personality and just fighter in general. So I think he will be entertaining just to see him get more love and spotlight. So that is a nice thing. Ortega, yeah, I mean, he as well, but, we know more. We've seen more of him, been spotlighted throughout his career. And I don't know. We'll just see what the chemistry is like, I guess. But, and, especially from a competitive standpoint of them being coaches, that adds something to it. But it's not the one that we wanted, especially when we were teased with Colby and Jorge. Like, dude, like, come on. And then just the fact that you do this to a fight that was supposed to happen earlier. Like, that's the thing that really bothers me is it's not like Volkanovski, had a serious ACL tear or something crazy. Like, yes, you got to take the virus seriously. Trust me, but it's not going to take. This could have been booked for 263 or something like we've been speculating. So odd move. I think it's a very odd move to go with them as coaches. And I don't know, maybe the best choice. I feel like we could think of a better one, Pat.
Yeah, no, I mean, my biggest gripe with this, because I too watched The Ultimate Fighter, especially because if you watch The Ultimate Fighter and then they do the finale where they match up everybody that was in the house, the betting odds are always way off. So I think I've made money on the last 10 Ultimate Fighter finales easily because the odds have just been like, huh? Yeah. So I love watching for that reason alone. But I mean, again, as a show, it has been overdone. It's, it was on its last legs. Nobody's been clamoring for it to come back. I'm fine with it being there, but my biggest gripe is just as you said, you are now extending a fight we really want to see that was booked, just like a week ago. and here we are, now dragging this out. And Volkanovski, I think, is going to shine. I think he will get a lot more love. I think, just from some conversations I've had with him or I've seen him interact in his natural, element, he is a pretty funny dude. I think he will kind of shine on that show. Ortega, we'll see how that goes, but they're both also pretty respectful. Like, I don't foresee them getting into it. It's going to be nothing compared to what Colby versus half of the welterweight roster would have been, right? Like, like just having Colby on the show is a win there.
Anybody.
And yeah. and there's so, again, other matchups you could have done here, which would have made a lot more sense. Could have done Moreno and Figueiredo, right? Because they were scheduled to, they're aiming for sometime in June. Mm-hmm. That lines up perfectly. And their first fight was such a war. You could have done that with Moreno, especially being an alum himself. That's a big thing. You could have done, if Whitaker gets past Gastelum and gets a number one contender shot, you could have done Izzy versus Whitaker on the show. I think Izzy on the show would be phenomenal and would only, highlight his star power more.
Mm-hmm.
And Whitaker would have been able to go back and forth with some banter. There's so many different combinations that could have happened here. And now we've chosen the featherweights. Why? I can't really know, because it's going to just drag this out, and it sucks. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. So, at least it gives Volkanovski more time to recover from COVID.
Volkanovski to have, as much time as he needs to recover from anything. And, especially something like this where we've seen Hamzat have his issues and, just other people in general. Give the champ some respect, give him the time that he needs. He was obviously okay with taking this position, in the first place. So, that's a good aspect from it to let him have time. But Pat, I think an interesting thing that we could tackle here is because of the fact that people don't really care or want Tough necessarily. They're not clamoring for it, as you said. Could this be the for sure last season now? Because here's the line of thinking that I think people didn't really consider, because this is going to be the first season on ESPN, or a part of the ESPN deal, ESPN Plus, right, or whatever it's going to be on. So they had to test it out. They just had to, whether we wanted it or we're asking for it or not, they were gonna see how it does on ESPN Plus or that platform, right? So myself, I could see them doing 2 more max. It depends really on how they go, and especially this one, because like we said, Volkanovski Ortega might not be the most charismatic combination, but just how do you feel about that aspect of the platform and how long they could experiment with it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Honestly, I think this is not the last season. I think there will be at least one more. Probably, I could almost say at least 2. And the main reason being, this is on ESPN Plus, right? And if you look at ESPN Plus catalog of content right now, it is still pretty barren. They've been able to work out, a couple MLB games, some, basketball games, football games here and there, mostly of schools that don't get a lot of coverage. But they are right now mostly a just plethora of kind of niche sports that you don't see anywhere else. I know that ESPN is working to try and get more of their content and switch it from big ESPN to ESPN Plus, and that's part of the deals they're working on in the future. But until then, they're just starved for content in general. So I think unless this season turns in, even if the season turns in like the worst viewership in the world, where nobody is watching,
only us watching,
yes, exactly. They would still give it another run just to add to their content library. And truthfully, as much as people say they're not going to watch it, I imagine a fair amount of hardcore fans are still going to tune in, right? I know a lot of people that griped about the last Tough season were like, man, I hate Tough. I don't, I can't believe we're doing this again, and still watched it because they just wanted to, it's kind of that logic of, if you're a real hardcore fan, you go after whatever content's out there a lot of times. And this is one of those staples and cornerstones that a lot of people watch, because it is up and coming fighters who will possibly make it to the UFC. At least a couple of them will. So I think you're going to end up getting viewership that, definitely says, yep, we're going to do at least one more season. Beyond that, as ESPN Plus's library grows, I'm not so sure. Like, if you're getting to the point where you need to start cutting things, I'm sure that's part of it. But the other big question I have, thinking this through out loud, is, was Tough part of the deal, the original ESPN UFC deal? Because if it was, technically then it's slated for 7 years. And I mean, I'm sure ESPN could cut it, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was part of their broadcast rights deal where they had to produce, as part of the other content they had to produce outside of shows and pay-per-views. Tough was one of them. So we'll see. But yeah, we might have 7 more years of Tough.
That's a great question to hopefully somebody asks that. And, if they don't, I will definitely ask in 3 weeks at 261, because that's a great question. 7 more years of Tough. Could you imagine?
I could. That's the thing. I really could.
Well, okay. If that was the case, though, do you think they would have had to have started it earlier now? Because we're not in the first year of the ESPN deal anymore.
I think normally you would have, but I think a big part of it again was the pandemic and all the changes, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's very possible it's just other content, and there's some ways out of Tough, or ESPN kind of gets to order what content they want. All these things, you know. I'm sure if viewership was non-existent, they would come to an agreement to stop it because nobody wants to do that. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. I just know that I can't see this being the last year. Yeah. I really can't. So
because even if this season sucks and nobody watches, like you said, just you and me watching, then they have the excuse of, all right, well, that was the first one. Let's see how the next season does, you know, just reminding people they'll be all into the next one. We'll go even bigger with it. So 2 more for sure. I think that's a very, very safe bet. So we'll see.
I'd say so. So let us know in the comments, you know, if you think this will be the last season of Tough. Are you excited for Tough? Are you going to watch The Ultimate Fighter? Are you all about it? I know there's some people out there that love it. Let us know if you're one of those. Make an argument for why Tough should keep going. Are you excited about Ortega and Volkanovski? Would you have rather seen other coaches? Do you want to see them as the coaches? Let us know. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and the bell notification. And yeah, I mean, it's back. Tough 29, baby.